Hi, NATO here. I just want to talk to you about some of the things going on today. One of the big ones is Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was convicted today of 3 felonies involving a rape that took place in 2004. The appeal process will take 6 months to 2 years, and in the meantime, he is still out on bail. The case came down today, and this was the second trial, as the first trial ended in a mistrial. Today he was convicted of all 3 charges. Each charge is a felony, resulting in a 10-year sentence in prison. Now, the thing we do not yet understand is, will the judge sentence him to concurrent, or do they all at the same time, or will he have to serve each sentence independently 10 years, 10 years, and 10 years, being 30 years total? He is in his 80s, so really all 30 years is practically a death sentence. But the appeal process has a long ways to go, and he's still free to roam around at least the United States. He did have to surrender his U.S. passport, and he doesn't have a plane, as he had to shout that out in court today, explaining that he was not going to be a flight risk. The caravan of migrants traveling through Mexico are going to be arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border very soon. The U.S. government has said they were not going to allow these people to enter into the United States, either if they try to come in through California or through any of the other bordering states at the U.S.-Mexico border. It is not yet determined what Mexico is doing to either help or prevent this caravan from reaching the U.S.-Mexico border, but I do know the administration is not happy with the fact that these people have been able to get this close. People have their issues with immigration, whether they want open borders or they don't want open borders. But I'm going to give you an example of the reason why open borders are not helpful. There's a woman in Northern California that I know. This woman has 2 children and has a severe heart problem. She is struggling to get disability. She's trying to get assistance through her local county to help her pay for her rent and to pay for her apartment and her basic needs. She has had to sell her bed, all of her furniture, and lives in an empty apartment trying to sustain herself. She has no family. She is all that she has. Because the county has to spend so much money on people who have no right to be here, who have not worked at all within the United States at all, or contributing to the entire the society as a whole financially, the county's on the hook for all those people. There's only so much money you can give. There's only so much HUD housing available, and with the economy of California, people like her are dying. She's a native-born American citizen with 2 American-born children who are not going to be able to make ends meet because we put too much effort into people who aren't from here, who have no right to be here. She has a chance of not making it. This is just one case in California that I am aware of. There are cases in New York City, in Chicago, in Houston that are similar to this one, to where people, because the counties are strapped financially, the cities are strapped financially, they're not able to pay for everyone who qualifies for assistance. There's just not enough to go around. This is a problem. Speaking of not having the government's not being able to step in England right now we have another case involving an infant that has a degenerative brain disease. I don't know what's in the water over in the UK, but it seems to be happening a lot. The government there has not done so much to sway the healthcare system from not allowing this child to leave. The Pope has tried to get involved, and is even this child has even gotten Italian citizenship bestowed upon him so he could try to go to Italy to get additional medical care. Now, will this solve his problem? Will he be cured? That's an unknown. But they said that he would, as soon as he was removed off a ventilator for his breathing, that he would die very quickly. He was removed off his ventilator system on Monday, and today is Thursday, and he is still breathing on his own. So there is some course of action that should be taken if he is still able to live after this long being off the ventilator, when he was said he won't survive more than a few minutes. People are saying, well, we want a single payer, we want this healthcare system like they have in England. There have been two examples in just the time that President Trump has been in office to where the system in England has led two people who might have had a chance of some type of recovery to not be able to. I think most people would agree that they would rather try than to just give up. That's like telling an adult. Now, these have been two young children who knows what their chances of recovery were going to be. But you're basically telling them, like, we don't care. Imagine telling a 42-year-old mother of 4 that, oh, you have been diagnosed with cancer. You have a cancer that we could possibly treat. It is possible to treat this cancer. However, we feel like it would be better off to spend the money and resources on someone who doesn't have cancer, to the point to where your cancer gets so bad that no one could help you, period. I think about it this way for just a few minutes. It's not fair to tell them that you can't attempt to help them. If the federal government of Great Britain decides they no longer want to put any money in this child's life, but the family has its own private resources, and another country and the Pope is willing to get involved and spend their money, there should be no reason to hinder that family from trying to save their child. All right, Kanye. Everyone's going off the hook about Kanye West right now, that he is, red-pilled, as it's been going on. And Candace Owens is another person who is red-pilled. Red pill typically means someone who is not part of the radical liberal agenda, especially people who are more on the tendency of entertainment, like Kanye is. Even the Kardashians themselves are saying, hey, we have the right of free thought. We have the right to not agree with you. You can't tell us that we are not allowed to not have the same beliefs and agree with you in every single thing that you believe in. If you agreed with everything that everyone else did, that would be a horrible place to live in. I would not want to live in a place where everyone agreed on everything. That would be mind-numbing. Just because Kanye is so supportive of Donald Trump does not make his music any better or any worse. It just means that he has political thoughts that are different than yours, telling him that we don't like you and that we're going to break your CDs and we're never going to buy no ticket to any of your shows. All you're doing is proving him right. I like Kanye's music in some senses I don't. His political standing is not going to alter my opinion of his entertainment value. It did actually improve my opinion of the Kardashians, however. The fact that his wife did say, hey, we think that he has the right to have his own opinion. And she even kind of shot back, like, what are you saying? Are you saying that in America we're not allowed to think differently? I think that means something. And I hope there's a lot of people out there that will take that in consideration. I believe Shaquille O'Neal is also another person who is on the famous side of things that is not anti-Trump. What really upsets me is that it's not just about not being a Trump supporter, is that you have to be anti-Trump. You can't just not support him. You have to be anti-Trump. That's ridiculous. I do not favor any of the anti-movements towards the Clintons or towards the Obamas, and I think that people who did the effigies showing of Barack Obama being hung or lynched was a horrible thing, and they should have been prosecuted. And I also think that the horrible things depicting an effigy of President Trump should have been prosecuted. That type of behavior is not acceptable. We have free speech, but you're inciting violence towards another individual that has done nothing wrong to you. For all the things you say Trump is going to destroy, Trump is ruining, he hasn't done any of the things that you say he is doing. So, knock it off. And, again, I made a video about not identifying someone with their political agenda, with what their political mindset is. They are not just their political beliefs. There's so much more to each individual other than what they politically believe in. Okay? And just because you agree with something that Trump does, or you should agree with Trump on most things, doesn't mean that you're going to agree with President Trump on everything. I do not agree with the bombing in Syria. Most hardcore Trump supporters, and I don't know how hardcore I am, really trying to think about that. I don't know of any real supporters, the people who really supported him on the basis that he is Trump. Not so much that he was conservative or not Hillary Clinton or not Bernie Sanders. The specific attribute that he is Donald Trump. and the things that he was talking about was no more foreign intervention. And Syria is something that the U.S. really does not need to be getting involved in. There's so much evidence that show that it has something to do with regime, whatever word you want to use it. I've been getting criticized on how I pronounce that word, so I'm trying all of them. By removing Assad, it doesn't help or change the living standards of the people living in Syria. In fact, he's one of the few leaders that has protected non-Muslims in his borders. He's the type of leader that, on the face of it, is someone that we want. Now, with the chemical attacks, it just seems odd that every time he's just about to win, and just in time for him to be able to take control of everything, and the rest of the world forget that this problem exists, that he has a chemical bomb or chemical weapons are used. This doesn't make any sense. The timing doesn't work for anything. I really have a hard time believing that this was his actions. Now, I'm not there, so I don't know for sure, but I highly doubt it. I mean, come on, the British had to backtrack on the fact that they knew the Russians were involved in the poisoning of that former Russian spy. They had to backtrack it. It was not definitely for sure a Russian poison that caused that problem. And it is also really well known that the rebels in the Syrian conflict also have the same access to those same gases and same chemical weapons. And this also goes back to what happened in Ukraine when there were Ukrainians themselves, the Azov army, that hijacked the money that the U.S. had sent over to push the Ukrainian government more Western and cause a lot more problems for the actual Ukrainian citizens. The snipers shooting Ukrainians throughout the country were actually other Ukrainians that were trying to start a revolution. So, false flags are a common thing right now, especially everywhere the U.S. has put their fingers. And so I'm really against foreign intervention on any reason, with the exception of Iran. Iran has not stopped shouting death to Israel, death to the United States since 1979. Now, the reason why Iran is a problem is the U.S.'s fault. Operation Ajax, with Kermit Roosevelt and the CIA, President Eisenhower, and the British government, and trying to control the AIOC, when a company ended up becoming the British Petroleum, caused all the Middle East problems we have because of their coup in 1953 of the Westminster-style government in Tehran, and the kingdom of in Persia, before it was a kingdom again. The U.S. caused that problem with our intervention, with our "we're going to make your lives better" BS. We caused that problem, and now everyone else in the world has to deal with it. The negotiations that took place leading up to the Iran deal a couple of years ago was horrible. In reality, it basically gives them nothing but time. They have to surrender nothing but time. And after a certain period of time, they're able to start right back up with no consequences. And we just freed up all the money for them to do so. This was a bad deal. Even Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader in the Senate, says that this was a bad deal at the time. We need to renegotiate this or back out of it. Either way, Iran is not our friend. I don't care if they are friends of other countries I think we should support. I'm support on that country by itself. Iran is a problem, and we need to deal with it, and if necessarily, militarily. I don't like that option, but Iran is not a country that is going to settle for anything other than death to America and death to Israel. North Korea is its whole other situation. They're wanting recognition. Same political process that East Germany dealt with in the late 1940s and the beginning of the 1950s was the same thing that North Korea is trying to do. They want to be seen as equals. Iran doesn't have that. Iran doesn't care about being seen as equals. They literally want the death of Israel and death to America, as they shout all the time. So Iran is more of like what Adolf Hitler would be, to where North Korea is just a brat who wants attention. And you know what? He's a brat who has some pretty good bargaining chips for attention. So see what he wants. If he agrees to stop what he's doing we don't like, and then he stops, we should work with him. But if he just keeps trying to go back on it, then we should knock that out. I'm not playing games. We should quit playing games with countries, because all it does is make us look like fools. Anyway, I just went over a lot of information. I wasn't planning on going over quite so much, but that's basically everything in a nutshell. I am babysitting cats right now. I'm going to be heading back out to the Midwest here shortly, as soon as I take care of a last piece of business here in New York. And I have a big announcement. I am going to be communicating in depth on Capitol Hill on June 7th, 2018, regarding people with disabilities, talking about the different types of disabilities, what effects these people are having, and how Social Security Administration has not been doing a good enough job of processing disability claims, and how we're not enabling these people to get decent work so they don't have to be on disability. And I'm trying to shore up some of the fraud in the SNAP programs, and I'm trying to deal with stuff in that nature. So there's just way too much to go over with it right now. I have a busy month ahead of me trying to get all this stuff organized. But June 7th, 2018, I will be in Washington, D.C. It's gonna be a pretty big meeting. I'm gonna have 15 minutes to convince a lot of people of a lot of stuff. So for people who don't know how politics work, you get 15 minutes to change the world. And I'm gonna need all the help I can get, because I can't even get this thing done in less than 10. All right, guys. Until next time, peace out.